I want to reintroduce Chris Joannis from the Atlanta Department of Education. She's going to be walking us through her presentation, which is focused on SLOs at the state level. I've had the pleasure of working with Chris for the last couple of years in South Carolina, and know that one of the valuable lessons I've learned from her is that SLOs are really an iterative process. And so I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to Chris. Thank you so much. We'll take a look at the Q&A at the end of the session.
All right. Thank you so much, Doug. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I come to you from the state of South Carolina. And before we get started, I just want to point out a couple of things that Doug has mentioned. Number one, change takes time. So as I present our slides from South Carolina, remember that we are one state, and we are very early in the implementation timeline with SLOs. And it's important to note that states have very unique contexts. And so as I present these, keep in mind that several decisions were made using some of the materials and guidance that Doug presented with South Carolina's context in mind. And so as you move forward, it's really important to use your resources, but then carefully consider your local context. All right, let me give you a little background on our state. In this first slide, you know, each state would have different numbers attached to some of the bullets at the top. I want to draw your attention to the last bullet in the top where it says no regional support center structure is in place. Several states have regional education support agencies around, and that type of structure supports any type of statewide implementation and training involved in changing any system, and in this case, teacher evaluation. So South Carolina does not have that structure in place, and so when you hear me speak to some of the challenges, that is certainly one of them. And so we always have to look at unique ways to be in various regions and bring training and resources to people. So that is something to consider. Let me give you a little history on teacher evaluation in our state. Prior to ESSA flexibility efforts, teacher evaluation in the state of South Carolina were outlined in 2006 guidelines for our ADEPT teacher evaluation system. ADEPT is an acronym that stands for Assisting, Developing, and Evaluating Professional Teaching. Within those guidelines, the process for evaluating teachers, SAFE-T, which is spelled out for you in the slide, outlines how teachers are to be evaluated, in particular how you conduct classroom observations and arrive at an evaluation measure. The SAFE-T process is largely a portfolio-based process where the teacher submits several artifacts and is observed in a formal evaluation year. In 2015, new guidelines were approved by the South Carolina Board of Education in preparation for an ESSA flexibility waiver request. Changes were needed to satisfy federal assurances to include student growth, SLOs being one of those measures of student growth. In South Carolina, SLOs were originally considered as the method for collecting student growth for teachers in non-tested grades and subjects. South Carolina's ESSA flexibility waiver in the summer of 2015, and the implementation of the new expanded ADEPT system was to begin fall of 2015. In December of 2015, we all know ESSA was reauthorized, and in that reauthorization, states were given flexibility to determine their approach to teacher evaluation. In response, South Carolina made some immediate changes to those newly adopted guidelines, which I will outline in the next few slides.